Welcome to Fireside Giants, and my name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony the Great Rivardo. This week we got a big one, guys. Giants versus Dallas, Week 17 for the playoffs. Need a little bit of help from opponents in the NFC East, which is pretty fun. It's going to come down to the wire here, but I called this a couple weeks ago. It was going to come down to this Dallas Giants game. Now here we are, just waiting to see what happens, and the Giants are going to have to win this game and then wait for the later Eagles versus Washington, and we're going to need the Eagles to beat Washington. So it's going to be a pretty intense Sunday afternoon. I'm pretty excited for it. I know you guys are. Maybe some people don't feel we are a playoff team, and I don't think we are either, but you know what? You can't pass up an opportunity to make the postseason. Meaningful games in January are always fun to be around and really fun to experience. We've seen miracles happen in the past. So I think that, just making the playoffs is a big step forward for these young guys on the roster. It really shows Joe Judge's influence and the impact he's had in the culture so far for the Giants this season and in the future. And I think, there's going to be some moving pieces this offseason. That's obviously, we're going to talk about that when the time comes. But for now, we want to break down and really analyze what the Giants need to do to beat Dallas in Week 17 and put themselves in a chance to actually make the playoffs in the first place. But before we dive into the good stuff, Anthony, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy New Year's to everybody who's watching this or listening to this. I'm excited for this week's matchup. You got to take it 1 week at a time, especially right now, because we are, fighting for our lives here, the Giants are. If we win, we might get into the playoffs, and then we'll take it another week at a time. You can't look too far ahead, but, this is going to be a tough game. Dallas is playing some pretty good football over the last month, and it's not going to be easy for the Giants, especially if their offense continues to play the way they have been. You can't win games with an offense like the Giants have been putting on the field for the past few weeks. So something's going to have to change. The Giants are going to have to ramp it up offensively if they want to win this game. And if they do, then we still might not even get in the playoffs. We still got to hope for Philadelphia to beat Washington, and that's not going to be totally easy there. Washington, I think, has a 2-game better record than Philadelphia at this point. They're just a better team. So, we'll be holding our breaths from whenever the Giants game ends all the way till about 11 o'clock once the Philadelphia-Washington game ends, but it'll definitely be an exciting Sunday, and I think we can all be grateful and appreciative that, at least we're playing meaningful football in Week 17.
That's exactly right, and as Anthony said, Happy New Year's to everybody. Been a long year, but, we're almost to the end, and hopefully 2021 brings a lot better luck for humanity, really. But, at least we have something to look forward to this Sunday with the Giants in Dallas. But, this is going to be a tough one because Dallas is doing a lot better. Over the last 3 games, earlier on the season when we played them, their defense was historically bad. Secondary, historically bad. Mike McCarthy, players taking shots at each other. They've figured it out since then. It's been a little bit better. And over the last 3 games, they forced 10 turnovers. So their defense is playing a lot better. Pass rush is a lot better. And, right now, they're actually in first place in the NFC East. So we have to beat this Dallas team. I don't want to see them in the playoffs. I don't like it. Dallas is my most hated team in the world. I think Eagles are very close behind, but I just can't stand Dallas, and I really just hope we beat the crap out of them. But here's the reality is that they're on a 3-game win streak. They beat the Bengals 3 weeks ago, 30-7, 49ers 41-33, and the Eagles 37-17. Man, I wish we had Kellen Moore as our offensive coordinator, because I must say, they got rid of Jason Garrett, and things just seem to be going better on offense ever since. I mean, they did well last year, but they're without Dak Prescott. Keep that in mind. They've had 30 points 3 weeks in a row now, and they're coming into a Giants game where the Giants defense is not playing well, right? They've given up some pretty lofty scores, and they've been beat pretty badly the past few weeks by Arizona, Cleveland, and then Baltimore. And the Giants are going to have to find a way to stay in this game. It's really going to come down to offense, in my opinion. It's always really just outscoring good opponents, and that's why a lot of people say defense wins championships. But we're in an age where I think offense is actually the one thing that will win you a championship, because you just have to outscore your opponent at this point in time in the NFL. And I think the Giants are going to have to do that. Now, Anthony said before the podcast, he thinks that Daniel Jones is going to have a huge week. And I want to ask him, why do you think that? Why do you think Daniel Jones is going to have a big week? He just said yesterday that he's going to be more of a pocket passer. He can't run. He's still immobile for the most part. So I think, this is going to be a very basic plan. Push the guys downfield, try and keep up with Dallas, similar to what we've seen, but I don't think we have the talent. The wide receivers just don't look and seem to be capable of picking up the slack. Maybe Dante Pettis gets some more reps. I really hope he does, because he was the only guy that showed me any sort of energy and ability to run a second route when DJ was out of the pocket. How do you think Daniel Jones succeeds in this game, and can he actually score a couple touchdowns? Because he only has 9 touchdowns in the year passing.
Well, it's going to be, an uphill battle with the way that the Giants offense has been playing. Over the last 3 weeks, they've averaged 8.6 points per game, which is just an atrocity. It's pathetic. They've scored 7, 6, and 13 points. If you look at Dallas, they're averaging 36 points per game. Mm-hmm. So, they should be the favorites here, right? But, just the way that I see it, this is just shaping up to be one of those games where, we've seen Daniel Jones make some improvements here and there and progress throughout the season. Then he had the injury, kind of fell back a bit. Now he came back, had a pretty good performance against the Ravens, even though the team lost and didn't get really a whole lot of points on the board. But I thought that he played pretty well, given the circumstances. This looks like the week where the Giants just leave everything on the field, and in particular, Daniel Jones just goes out there and rips it, and he just completely plays his best game, reminiscent of last season when they played Washington. When in the Chase Bowl game, right, or the Chase Young Bowl game, when the Giants won and lost Chase Young, right, Daniel Jones just went off. He had 5 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. Mm-hmm. It looks like this is a trend, and it looks like it could repeat again. That's just the way I see it. I think that Daniel Jones could have a great performance. I don't think Dallas's defense is all it's cracked up to be. Over the last 3 weeks, they've played better, but last time the Giants played Dallas, they put a lot of points on the board. They scored over 30 points. Granted, 7 of those came from the defense, but
how many came from Graham Gano? My question.
9, right? Wasn't it 9 points from Graham Gano, 7 from the defense? 12 points from Graham Gano, 7 from the defense. So maybe the Giants' offense really didn't play that well that week, but still, it was definitely their best performance of the year, regardless, because it's the most points they got on the board. But it's better than a 13, a 6, and a 7-point performance over this last 3-game losing streak. But anyway, yeah, I just think Daniel Jones has been playing better. I think you kind of mentioned it to me, this quote from Joe Judge before we started recording. I don't remember what he said, but he kind of called Jason Garrett out and said he needs to be better. He didn't say it directly. He didn't mention Jason Garrett's name. If you can pull up the quote while I'm saying this, Alex. But he was basically just saying that the Giants aren't being creative enough on offense, and they're not good enough, and they have to do better. And I feel like Jason Garrett's probably going to go out there with a brand new game plan to adhere to his head coach's requests, and the Giants are going to go out there and hopefully Daniel Jones puts together one of those performances like he had in week 16 or 17 last year against Washington, and maybe he can push us into the playoffs for the first time since 2016. I fully believe in it. I believe in Daniel Jones. I think this is definitely a strong possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but maybe it's wishful thinking, but I do think that Daniel Jones has the capabilities of having a performance like this to push us into the playoffs. He just needs to rise to the occasion.
Yep. And I'm going to read you some quotes that Garrett and Judge had about this game coming up and really what it means. So Jason Garrett, he said Daniel Jones has a chance to be a really good player. And this is just more about Daniel Jones. He has all the things you want in a good quarterback, much positives and some things to improve on. He's the right kind of guy who will improve. Now, flip that, and I'm like, I don't know if Jason Garrett's the best guy for Daniel Jones. So that's kind of like what we're trying to figure out now. Is Jason Garrett the guy that they want to roll with? I don't think so. But, heading back to this game, Joe Judge said, Dallas has seen a lot of improvement, right? Their entire team, their offensive line, their wide receivers, everybody has grown into this role. Andy Dalton is no joke at this point in the season. 3 consecutive games over 30 points. You gotta look at that and say, they could easily post 30 or more against the Giants. They're gonna have to find a way to keep up. Turnovers are the key. They cannot turn the ball over. Like I said before, Dallas has 10 turnovers in their last 3 games. So the Giants need to protect the football, win that turnover battle, and really try to force some of their own. So that's a major factor there. And Judge even went on to say about the wide receivers, they have really good size, good speed, good hands. They make contested catches, exceptional yards after catch. They basically have 3 wide receiver ones with Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup. So these are really talented guys who can make a difference at any given moment. The defense is going to have to tackle guys in the field. They're going to have to make open field tackles. That is what Dallas does. They get guys into space, and they allow them to run on crossers and deep routes, deep posts. We're going to see a lot of things deep downfield. The Giants have been good at mitigating those big plays downfield, but at a certain point, there's only so many times you can protect it before one of them breaks loose, especially with this kind of talent at wide receiver. They're going to have to make open field tackles, no missed tackles. That's going to be a big one. And even Patrick Graham, during practice, he's making those guys redo individual drills because, if he doesn't see the intensity he wants, he doesn't see the technique he wants, he needs that to be perfect going into this game. So that's a big one. And then the quote that Anthony's talking about is that Judge said on offense, they must evolve. Says that the team has good players, always want to be multiple and adjust on the fly. what that says to me is that he doesn't believe the offense has done enough with the talent that they have, which is a very, very slight shot at Jason Garrett, in my opinion, because if that offense, and he believes those players are better than the points that they're putting on the board, that says to me that's the play calling. It's the offensive coordinator who's not getting it done. So, Anthony, do you see it the same way? Because I feel like that if they're not evolving, if he says the team has good players and we're not seeing it on the field, whose fault is it?
I mean, absolutely. I think that he is, hinting towards the fact that the coaching staff isn't getting the job done. I think, that's what I take away from that quote. I'm not putting words in his mouth or anything. I'm just interpreting it my way. Anybody listening or watching can interpret it their way. But to me, he's saying that the coaching staff isn't getting the job done. He's just saying it in the nicer way where he's not directly calling anybody out, right? And, shout out Joe Judge. Happy birthday to the man. That's my guy. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday to him. He's a guy I have full confidence in. Everybody who listens to us consistently knows that. But somebody who I don't have a lot of confidence in is Jason Garrett. And do I have the confidence in him to turn things around in Week 17 and really, propel us into the playoffs? Maybe not. But I have confidence in Joe Judge. I think he'll be creative. I think he'll be aggressive in the right moments. And I have confidence in Daniel Jones, who's healthier now, improving week to week with his health. So that's what gives me hope. Jason Garrett doesn't give me hope, but yeah, I think that when you look at that quote and then you look at the body of work that Jason Garrett put on the field this season, and then you look at the offseason coming up, whether we make the playoffs or not, I think we're looking at eventually moving on from Jason Garrett, and it's going to be, pretty soon that we decide to do that, right? Because what he's put on the field just hasn't been acceptable this year. The Giants are averaging the second least amount of points out of any team in the league this year, only behind the Jets. They've scored the exact same amount of touchdowns as the Jets this year, which is a terrible statistic that I saw today. And I can't wait for 2020 to be over for that reason, right? But, just all in all, this offense hasn't gotten the job done, hasn't even done anything close to being a competitive team on offense throughout the whole season. It's a miracle that we're still in the playoff hunt. Like, it's literally a miracle, and we all know that. It's just thanks to our terrible division being as terrible as it is. So, offensively, though, this game against Dallas in Week 17 to eventually maybe go to the playoffs, right? This reminds me of 2011, 2012. I'm sure everybody's getting reminders of that as well, when the Giants had to play Dallas in Week 17 to go to the playoffs, and they won it, and then they went to the playoffs and eventually won the Super Bowl, right? So here's my pitch of optimism. Here's when I'm going to be really optimistic and happy for a second as we turn into the new year. The Giants had that year in 2011 a moment where everything clicked and turned around, right? It was against the New York Jets in Week 16, where Eli Manning, you were at that game?
Yep, when Victor Cruz catches that 99-yard touchdown.
Amazing. That's really cool. I didn't know that. Yeah. When Cruz catches that touchdown and takes it to the house, from that moment on, the Giants were a different team. Like, they just were never the same after that. They turned it around, and they went on, and they won the next game handedly. They easily won that game, and then they won their first playoff game easily. Then they won their second playoff game easily. It got harder with the third, and then, of course, the Super Bowl. But they had a moment where everything just turned around. They were stagnant. They weren't playing that well, and then something happened, and it clicked, and it turned around. The Giants in this game need that moment. They need a moment where things turn around. They need somebody to just step up and click, and something's going to click and turn it all around, and then from then on, build on the momentum from that moment and just go on and play better football from that moment on. So whether it be Sterling Shepard, Evan Engram, Daniel Jones, even if he's got to make a play with his legs or just make some ballsy throw, there has to be some moment in this game that can actually convince us that this is a playoff team on offense. Like something has to happen, and then things have to be different after that, if that makes sense. We need something to click, and we need a special moment and get that momentum going, win that game, and then keep that momentum going on offense.
I think that was the Eli magic, That was why everybody loved Eli so much, is that you never know when he can make a play that just changes everything, like just that clicking moment, that throw, that whatever it might be, and everything you're just like, hold on, this feels different now. I just haven't seen that from Daniel Jones yet, that play where it's just like, okay, everyone's feeding off of that energy, feeding off of that leadership. Eli shows with his which player
against Tampa Bay, his first start. The energy was completely different in the second half. No, that one was nice, but when he hit Evan Engram, and then Engram took off, from then on, because I was at that game too, so you know about it from the Jets game, I know about it from that game. After that moment, everything just changed, and the team went on and just played great offense. And, the whole energy in that stadium really changed because people were leaving at halftime because we were getting blown out. And then that play happened, the whole energy changed, and it became a home game for the Giants, and they went on to win.
Yeah, no, you're right. That was the only time, but we haven't seen that, and that's primarily because the play calling, the injuries, the lack of talent, Saquon Barkley going down. There's a lot of factors going against the Giants right now. But the reality is, we want to see that from Daniel Jones. We want to see that spark, that moment that just changes the course of the game. Yep. And we know he can do it. It's just a matter of, does he have the playmakers to help him out? And I think Dante Pettis is actually a guy I want to see more of, more targets to him. And I'm gonna list off some statistics right now for Dallas's defense. They allow 30 points per game, so they're not immune to giving up a lot of points. 161 yards on the ground they allow out per game, and almost 400 passing yards, okay? Daniel Jones hasn't thrown over 279 yards in a game, and it came in week 1, right, against Pittsburgh. So we need to see the Giants pushing the ball downfield. And I have to say, if you're right and Daniel Jones has this big game and he gets over 300 passing yards and a couple touchdown passes, I'm going to be pissed off. And the reason is, why didn't Jason Garrett do this sooner? Why didn't he unleash the playbook sooner? That's going to be one thing, because we saw them running 4 verts this past weekend against Baltimore, and it worked. They got Dante Pettis open over the middle. They got some guys open, and that's what we want to see. But the reality is like we've been doing a lot of film review on Jason Garrett, and too many hooks, too many short routes. I don't know why they don't do any mesh routes. The mesh concept is basically has been axed from the playbook. That's what Evan Ingram's best at, when you're doing mesh across the middle and getting those guys to go past one another. We saw Pat Shurmur do it a ton, and it worked well. We just haven't seen these things that from Jason Garrett that you'd like to see from a very, very experienced coordinator and head coach previously. So, there's a lot of things the offense needs to work on. I don't think that they're going to be able to pull off this a big win, because I don't trust Jason Garrett. If it was somebody else, maybe I would feel a lot more confident. And maybe if our offense had put up more than 30 points just once this season, I'd feel better than it. But Jason Garrett, just the route concepts, everything about it, there's no way that anyone's going to convince me that suddenly we're going to see creativity, these just different route concepts, these mesh routes, scissors, getting Sterling Shepard into single coverage and intermediate to short routes and getting him open. There's nobody that's going to convince me that he actually has this figured out, because even though he was Dallas' head coach last year, he has proven to me that he cannot call plays for this team, and I don't trust him. And like Joe Judge said, this offense needs to evolve. We have the playmakers, we have the talent to get things done. I mean, think of Daniel Jones. He had Saquon Barkley injured for most of the year last year. Nobody really respected his long game at that point, because he had high ankle sprains are really, really bad. I mean, look at Christian McCaffrey. He's been barely able to play, and when he did, he was struggling too. Missed a couple games, and then he didn't even have Evan Ingram for the second half of the year. Still put up 5 touchdowns in week 16 or 17 against Washington. So this is the reality, is that like we have talented playmakers. They just look so just demoralized because the routes they're running are so basic. They're just not testing anybody. Like, they don't feel confident running their routes. Darius Slayton's basically just running straight and then turning around because he's like, I'm not getting the ball. Like, I'm not doing anything special. It's sad, and Dallas has a crap secondary. So if we can't push the ball on them, Jason Garrett needs to be fired 30 milliseconds after this game ends.
Yeah, and I think there is a good chance that, say the Giants go out there and they put up 6 points on Sunday, right? And they get blown out because of it, because their offense just can't do anything. Their defense bends, and then eventually breaks, right? And the offense just can't do anything. I think there's a really solid chance that within a week we see Jason Garrett get fired. I don't even think that's like in the realm of impossibilities. Like, that is going to happen, like within a week of that happening, Jason Garrett would be fired. I fully believe that. But here's the thing, right, is last week we kind of started to see a change in the offense. The Giants were playing from behind, granted, so Jason Garrett and the Giants offense got a lot more vertical and a lot more aggressive downfield, and they started to move the ball a lot better, and Daniel Jones started to play a lot better because, I've been harping on this all year. I think that Daniel Jones is best in a vertical offense where he can utilize his deep throwing accuracy, because he's best when throwing the ball downfield. But, of course, he's playing in a more West Coast offense, zone run offense, where they just kind of keep the ball in every pass short, and you lose games because of it, right? So the Giants were more vertical in the second half last week because they were losing. Now I would like them to see, the vertical offense works. Let's do it when we're not losing. Let's start the game out and start being vertical in the beginning of the game and carry it on throughout the game. Like, that's what the game plan should be, especially against Dallas, who has such a tendency to put a lot of points on the board. The Giants have to try to match that. They have to get aggressive and just start pushing the ball downfield as soon as the game starts. We would see that with the Giants in years past, with Eli Manning. He would come into games when the Giants needed to put up a lot of points, and they would get really vertical and just start airing the ball out as soon as the game started. And sometimes it catches the defense off guard. They just don't expect you to start raiding the air in the way that you do, right? Like, that's kind of the whole idea of the air raid offense. We see Kyler Murray and the Cardinals do that a lot. They'll just start the game off throwing the ball downfield and just start bombing it to Hopkins or whoever, right? So that's something that the Giants this week, when you talk about the offense evolving or changing and trying to get a key moment and a key change in this offense to start winning games, especially winning this game in particular, taking it 1 week at a time, just start off with a vertical offense and be aggressive and then set the tone for the rest of the game. And I think that's really how the Giants can win this game and how maybe even Jason Garrett could save his job. Although I don't want it. He should. There's no way he could save his job, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I get you. And, that's a good point because a lot of teams the past 2 weeks, what we've actually noticed by watching a lot of film is that they're playing a lot of cover one. When they're doing empty sets, when they're doing shotgun, they're playing cover one. And if you're not familiar with cover one is a run-stopping formation. You're stacking the box, you're putting guys in man coverage. And the reason they're doing cover one is because they don't respect the Giants receivers. They don't respect them to beat them in man coverage. Even when the secondary, Baltimore had 2 starting cornerbacks out last week in Jimmy Smith and Marcus Peters, and they still ran cover 1 and cover 0 in man coverage, and they still beat the crap out of the Giants on offense, okay? That is the problem. The Giants need to push the ball downfield, test those cornerbacks early. If you're running cover 1, there's only one deep safety. If you have guys on the outside boundary receivers, look off the opposite safety, look off the opposite wide receiver and get that safety to shift one way and then take a shot downfield in man coverage. That is Daniel Jones' strength. Anthony hits on this every week, and Jason Garrett seems to disappear when those opportunities arise. And also the wide receivers are to blame as well because a lot of them aren't getting good jumps off the line of scrimmage. They're just jamming the wide receivers, and it's really causing problems for their playmakers because the Giants receivers can't fight through these jams. And opponents are seeing that. They know that. They don't have the tenacity. They don't have the aggressiveness. They don't have the desire, the want to win these routes. That's what's happening these days. And I think Dante Pettis, from what I saw last week, has the energy, the speed, the agility to actually win those routes. So I want to see him on the outside with Sterling Shepard on the inside. Test these guys, test these terrible Cowboys secondary cornerbacks and defensive backs. That should be the game plan. But as for the defense, I want to talk about them a little bit. Before we wrap up the analysis of the portion of this video. But Anthony, how do you see this defense, stopping a very potent Dallas offense? Does it come down to the secondary stopping the run? Because I know they have Ezekiel Elliott back, and that's going to be a problem. How do you see the Giants doing this? Because Andy Dalton is a pure pocket passer. He's not going to run very often. Maybe he'll roll out a couple times, but he will pretty much stay in the pocket. I think it's really the job of the interior defenders. They need to get after him. They need to put pressure on him, force him to make bad throws. That's going to be tough because Dallas's offensive line always manages to play well. So that'll be a very big challenge, but I really think it's going to come down to James Bradbury. I think Darnay Holmes is healthy. And Isaac Yiadom, it's going to come down to these secondaries just really, really stopping them. And the Giants play a lot of zone coverage, so they're going to have to be careful about letting these guys on crossing routes get open in the open field. And tackling is going to be the main one. No missed tackles. So how do you see the defense really rising to the occasion and winning in this matchup?
I think you have to stop the run and force Andy Dalton to beat you. And I know Andy Dalton's been playing some great football, but it's really predicated on the fact that the Dallas sets the tone with their running game. Whether it's Ezekiel Elliott, who I don't think it is, because I'm pretty sure they're going to move on from Ezekiel Elliott within the next year or two. Hopefully, I think they're hoping to get him out of the door as soon as this offseason. We'll see how that happens, how that works out. But whether it's Ezekiel Elliott or Tony Pollard, whoever's in the backfield is just having good games. Like the Dallas, they're banged up on the offensive line, but they still have a great offensive line. They still have a good run blocking scheme. Like, they know what they're doing in terms of scheming together a running game, something that the Giants maybe don't understand as well, right? But Dallas sets the tone through their running game, and then that opens things up for the passing game for Andy Dalton. That's how he's had so much success this year. It's not like Andy Dalton's going out there and putting the entire offense on his back. Like Dak Prescott would do that for them occasionally when the running game, they just shut that down. Dak would go out there and put the offense on his back. Andy Dalton's not doing that. He's just taking what the defense is giving him, and he's playing smart football and not turning the ball over, things like that, and he's playing well, all credit to him. And they've got an amazing receiving core. Really, what it's going to come down to stopping the run and don't let Andy Dalton get in a groove, but also on the back ends, you have to play phenomenal coverage. The Giants need to, play really good man coverage, and they need to play some disguise coverages too, because you got to figure out a way to not let these receivers just dominate you. CD Lamb, yeah, he is a true number one. Amari Cooper is definitely a true number one. CeeDee Lamb is getting there if he's not there already. Michael Gallup, you can argue that he's a number one. I don't think so. I think he's like maybe the best number two receiver in the league. He's up there for that. But either way, that receiving core is just disgusting. It's nasty. It's one of the best in the NFL. So somehow the Giants have to figure out a way to, yes, stop the run, but don't commit too heavily to the run to where you let these receivers start running free in the secondary and putting up a ton of yards and points, right? So I don't know. There's got to be some pure balance. But really, you need to see a big game from James Bradberry. You need to see Isaac Yiadom have a good game. And then you look at those safeties, Jabril Peppers. He's going to help in both facets, whether it's in the run game or getting out in coverage. And then Logan Ryan, he's great in coverage. He needs to continue to be great in coverage. And Xavier McKinney and Julian Love, we'll see them on the field a bit, probably rotating in the safety and in the slot. And Darnay Holmes as well in the slot because he's going to be back. You just need to see these guys play really well while the defense commits to the run, Like, good coverage plus run defense is good, but if everybody just commits to the run, then you're screwed. So, I mean, there's really, no one answer for this, but because they do have such a great offense with so many playmakers, but I don't know. That's really my long-winded answers. Stop the run, but also the coverage guys just have to do their job.
Yep. And here's the good part for the Giants. There's one good part. And, I guess there's a couple on defense. One of them is that they have a good run defense, right? They can stop the run. Last week was tough. But you take out the running mobility factor of the quarterback when it comes to Andy Dalton. You're not facing Lamar Jackson. Even Baker Mayfield can run a little bit. You're not facing Kyler Murray. Like, these guys, they had to play quarterback contain. They couldn't actually blitz guys like Carter Coughlin off the edge of outside linebacker. They had to keep a guy back. So you're already taking a player off the defense, right? You're pretty much taking a player off the defense to monitor that quarterback and which way he's going to run. Now they have that extra guy. Now they have that extra guy that can blitz and can do different things with, because they're not expecting Andy Dalton to be running the football. So there you have an extra piece that Patrick Graham can work with now. So that's something important to remember. But at the same time, the Giants are good at stopping the run, but when you have a good offensive line like Dallas does, it's not going to be easy to stop them. Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, both very, very capable of breaking some nice chunks of yardage at a time. But like you said, it's going to come down to those wide receivers and stopping those guys, because this offense is very potent. It's going to be incredibly difficult to stop them on all cylinders. I think you start with stopping the run, force Andy Dalton to make the throws, put pressure on him, and it really comes down to guys like Isaac Yiadom, in my opinion, and Darnay Holmes. Like James Bradberry against, let's go look at Cleveland for a second, the Cleveland matchup. You didn't have James Bradberry or Darnay Holmes in this matchup, right? Those were two huge losses in the secondary, and Baker Mayfield's probably the only guy in the last 3 weeks that's considered a pocket passer. Now you have Andy Dalton, who's a serious pocket passer. He's going to be standing in there and slinging the ball from the pocket. And you have James Bradberry and you have Darnay Holmes back. So that's going to be a huge boost, but expect them to be communicating a lot. This is going to be a lot on Logan Ryan, in my opinion. That veteran leadership, communicating to those younger guys, passing on assignments, because like I said before, the Giants play a lot of zone coverage, and when you're playing zone, you have to pass on those assignments. A very good communication, passing on receivers to different zones. So that's super important. Keep that in mind when you're watching this defense. Logan Ryan's going to be a very instrumental piece in helping those young guys, pass the zones over to the middle, and having guys like James Bradberry just try and shut down one side of the field. I don't expect Amari Cooper to have a big game. He didn't when the Giants played him last time, but CeeDee Lamb is a guy you got to worry about, because Isaac Yiadom is not good enough to man up against CeeDee Lamb. I expect, guys over the top like McKinney and Love and Ryan to be helping Isaac Yiadom a lot in this contest. But then you got to worry about Michael Gallup, who can push the ball downfield and make some moves. So it's going to be tough, man. They also have Dalton Schultz, their tight end, who's been playing well. So I could list off just weapons on this Dallas offense all day long, and then you have Kellen Moore, one of the best modernized offensive coordinators in the league. This is not going to be easy for the defense.
I think he's really clever. I think Kellen Moore, I like that you keep mentioning him, because I think that he's really talented, and he's done a great job with that Dallas offense. But also say another key to this game is don't allow Michael Gallup to catch a Hail Mary in the fourth quarter. That should help.
Yeah, that would definitely help, because the Giants tend to collapse sometimes in the fourth quarter. During their 4-game win streak, though, they did perform very well, closing out games. But that's kind of an overview of what to expect from this offense, this defense, what we've seen in the film for the Giants. So I'd say, like, just to break it down, like, very quickly and summarize, the Giants need to take shots against cover one because teams don't respect their receivers. Get guys like Dante Pettis, push them downfield. Darius Slayton's got to shake off whatever rust has been holding him back lately, the injuries and whatnot. Really unleash his speed. Sterling Shepard's got to, get open in man coverage. He's done a good job of that lately. Last week he did a good job. They started to target him heavily, and it worked out well, especially with the red zone touchdown. Don't do anything stupid. Don't take any unnecessary risks. Don't ask your punter to throw to the center. I know Anthony loves that one.
Come on.
Don't
Why
ask
you
your
gotta
punter
come
to throw
after
to
me
the
like
center.
this? You gotta keep coming after me like this.
Just take high probability risks, take shots downfield, keep up. You got it. This is the chance, man. This is the time. If you're going to beat Dallas, you need to score points. And if you're going to score points, you got to push players downfield and you got to take shots. So Daniel Jones is going to be in the pocket. The offensive line needs to step up big time.
Oh, yeah.
Dallas, their pass rush is waking up. They've awakened lately, so that's going to be a big one. The offensive line, keep an eye on left tackle Andrew Thomas. That's going to be big stuff there. But Anthony, before we wrap this up, you got anything left in terms of analysis or just points to make?
Well, you did just mention the offensive line, so I'll touch on that. We need to see a much better performance from the offensive line that we saw last week, that we saw against Arizona. Those were some really tough performances for those Giants offensive linemen, the rookies in particular. We need to see improvement this week. Dallas has actually done a really good job getting after quarterbacks this year. They've gotten a lot of sacks. They've seen the reemergence of Aldon Smith. They've seen, really just all their guys get after the quarterback in a good way. They're scheming it together the right way over there, unfortunately for us. So we need to see Andrew Thomas step up. He had a decent performance last week against Baltimore. It was really the other side of the line that struggled. But overall, we just need to see better play from the offensive line this week. And like I said, we just got to hope that Daniel Jones steps up to the plate, hits a home run, because that's really the only way we get into the playoffs at this point. And then, of course, pains me to say this, go Giants, but also go Eagles. I hate to say it, but I have to say it. So go Giants, go Eagles.
Yeah, we need a little help this weekend, guys. And, this is probably the only time I'm ever going to say go Eagles. I'd rather burn in hell than say that ever again. So let's ask for a little help, a little prayer from the football gods. Get in the playoffs, enjoy this this January a little bit, and some meaningful football in the postseason. Something that we haven't really been able to say in quite a while. And that's it. Let's go Giants. And of course, thank you guys so much for the support. YouTube channel's growing, getting some nice subscribers, doing film reviews. So if you haven't subscribed on there already, go check it out. Fireside Giants is what it is called over there. So you'll see some really great content. Obviously, the audio is on the podcast on on Spotify and Apple and iTunes. But if you want to see the visuals and the film breakdowns and the collaborations we do with Chris, the entertainer, and all the other YouTubers, you can find all that good stuff there. And obviously, we do film breakdowns with professionals. Like we did a film breakdown with a guy, Brian Walker, who actually trains Darnay Holmes and Jabril Peppers, and he broke down the film with us. Incredible guy, and just really cool. Talented. And it was pretty cool just seeing his professional opinion, and he really gives you some really great knowledge. So, of course, we'll see you guys in the next one. Let's go Giants, and let's pray for an Eagles win. Never want to say that again.